welcome to another episode of the Fell to Food podcast. I am your host, Chef Jeff Fell, in the IDM Content Kitchen today. So it's really fun, exciting to always be in person with the guests. So Naoki, thank you so much for joining me. You got a crazy little trip, after reading your background. Bartender to almost basically engineer designing your own product, which is crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
So we've got to get into that. So let's do the 30,000 foot view of kind of your background, history, how you fell into food.
Yeah.
More so beverage than food. But let's go through that and then we'll just start prodding and poking along the way.
Yeah, so my fell into food story is basically I went to school, I went to college as you did in the 1990s. 1995 I graduated high school, went to college cuz I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be a musician. I'm a songwriter, guitarist.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so went to college to basically buy myself some time and to make my mom happy. And which it was a great experience. I know these days with the price of college being so high, it's kind of like really talked down on going to school. But back then I think it was great and I still think it's great. So I got an English literature degree. Didn't really know what I was going to do. Thought might go into law, but ultimately I wanted to do music. So graduated college. My friend's like, you should try bartending. I'm like, okay, never thought of that. He's like, well, it's a good way. It's a good gig. You can make cash. It's a good gig to have. So I'm like, all right, how do you do that? So he's like, well, there's a bartending school. And today, like, that's kind of a laughable concept, bartending school.
Right.
Yeah, because there was like an actual bartending school in a store, like a retail storefront. In I think it's either Hoffman Estates or Schaumburg.
Okay.
And Illinois.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those that don't know, we're both here local in the Chicago market. You're a little bit further north, I'm a little bit west, but
correct.
Here in the Chicago market.
So that took like all but 2 weeks. So I graduated, got my diploma, and went to bartending school. And I don't know what my mom thought of that, but she probably was happy because I was getting a job. So then just tried to get a bartending gig and couldn't get one because they sell you that, like, they pitch you the idea that once you get your bartender's license, you'll be able to get a job, but it's just not that easy. So I started off barbacking, and like I kept a little notebook of where all my job my search. Like the 17th place.
Wow.
I got a barbacking opportunity. And then just decided to absorb as much as possible of the craft and trade of bartending, cocktails. I like to get deep into subjects.
Okay.
And so just absorbed all I could. Within like 3 months I was the lunchtime bartender, and within a year I had a regular shift. Because there's a lot of like attrition in these jobs.
I'm sure it's probably very similar to waitressing, with a little more skill involved.
Right. I found that bartending jobs are a bit harder to get because there are less bartenders in a restaurant than there are servers. So if you can't get a bartending job, just try serving, and you just wait it out. Something will eventually open up.
Right.
So I'm like, well, okay, bartending is a great job to have. I can still play music, subsidize that dream, and I can still, I didn't have to bring my work home with me. So that was a good gig. And so that's kind of how I fell into it.
But you did it for 15 years.
A lot, yeah, a little bit longer. And it's a funny story. I had to go back to it during the pandemic. Yes. So yeah, the music thing I gave myself till I was 30, but then I added on like 2 more years. But all throughout that time, I would feel the pain of having, like, the number one pain on the job that I could control was cleaning my bar tools after making drinks. So like, you make a cocktail, you have 2 sets, you have 2 tins, and you have to clean them before you make the next cocktail.
Right.
There's no quick and easy way to do that. And it really blew my mind because, like, in a bar, everything is made for speed. You have, like, speed pours. You have glass washers. Everything's made for speed except for that one thing. And bartenders do this, like, every time they make a shake and drink. This could be, like, 100, 200 times a night.
Yeah, and I mean, the amount of sugar and just, it's got to be sticky as all hell.
Yeah, and, as cocktails became more and more complicated and complex, as has food throughout the years, it's even more important to make sure you start with a clean canvas. So I'm like, well, as my musical dream was kind of coming to an end, I'm like, it's getting tiring to like get home at 5:30 after band practice, after working. So I'm like, why don't I just start this idea? What's the worst that could happen? And the whole time I was developing this idea for auto rinse, an automatic bar tool rinsing station, I just couldn't believe that no one had ever done this before. So the whole time I was trying to prove myself wrong and find a reason to quit. Because when you're pursuing a patent or a business, or it's like you're trying to do something unique and novel, if someone's already done it before you, then maybe you should do something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So throughout that whole time, I just every step of the way, tried to figure out a way not to do it, because getting a patent is expensive, product development is expensive, inventory is expensive, everything's so expensive. So, but to my shock, no one had ever done this before, and I walked the entire NRA show in like I forget when, 2016 maybe.
Okay.
Nothing.
Really? Even at the bar section that they have every known gadget gizmo?
Yeah, nothing.
Huh.
And I think the reason why is because there's a gap between people who bartend don't go home and think about how can I make a piece of equipment to
That-
help me work better.
That's true.
And then designers and bar equipment manufacturers, they're so far removed from the front line or the shop floor that they don't really, maybe they've already thought everything's been invented that needs to be invented. But having that perspective of being on the front line every night kind of proved to me that this is an actual idea that's worth pursuing. Also, another signal I got was like at Starbucks, the baristas, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but after they make a latte, they rinse out
Yeah,
their
and the little
yeah,
pushy rinsey thing.
right. So what they do at some Starbucks, I hope I don't get any baristas in trouble, but they like rig those things so they don't stop spraying water, so that you can just put the tint or the frothing pitcher on it and it keeps spraying water. It's like an automatic rinser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I that was another signal to me, like this could be used not only in bars and cocktail, but also in the coffee and now bubble tea worlds. We're selling to those markets too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the coffee makes a lot of sense, just having been in the university setting and have to like cover shifts at the coffee shop. It was
Hmm.
always a pain in the ass to rinse out the milk frothing pitchers. We'd always have like 7 of them because it was just too much to try and keep,
Right.
one and keep it clean. And then also, obviously, all the milks that you have to worry about
Hmm.
on top of that. But it was the number one pain point because some of these places were not really set up. And really, all they had was the hand wash sink. And you're not supposed to use the hand wash sink to rinse out, from a food
Yes.
safety
Thank you so
standpoint.
much.
But we didn't have a choice,
Yeah.
really. And when the
Yeah.
health department came, they're like, oh, we
Right.
just use the Sandy bucket. And I mean, luckily, like the one that I'm thinking of, the like 3-compartment sink was like right behind the wall. So we would be like, oh, we just swap out the water and we just use
Yeah.
that. They never busted us or did anything. But
Right.
I knew, I was like, this isn't sustainable, but that's what we had to do.
And like what I would see just in just working many bars, here's what a lot of people don't know, which if they knew, they'd feel a lot differently about their cocktails, right? So a lot of times a bartender will take their mixing tins and they'll just throw them in a hand sink or a dump sink, just because they have no other. Are under so much pressure to work quickly, so they just put it off till later, right?
Yeah.
Well, technically, those tins have now been contaminated, or could be contaminated,
Right.
and they shouldn't be in a hand sink, as you just said. Health departments don't like that. It's against code. Same with dump sinks. You know what a Hawthorne strainer is for
Yeah. It's the little friendly one, and you put
with
it on top, and then
with the springs.
yeah.
Okay.
I never knew what the thing was for. I
Yeah.
know I was like helps hold the drink in, but
Yeah,
that's about
so
it.
it's to strain the ice out. So like a lot of those things, they end up in dump sinks, and then the bartender just takes them out and uses them again.
Oh God.
And then there's this whole myth: alcohol kills germs. Like 90% isopropyl alcohol may kill germs, but margarita is not going to kill E. coli.
Yeah.
Okay, so but these are things that you wouldn't know unless you actually bartended. So I, just seeing that and thinking, well, we could, if there was a dedicated spot to rinse your mixing tins, and it had to be inside and out too, because like a lot of tins get sticky on the outside too. Just like milk frothing pitchers, they get sticky on the outside. So I knew that if I wanted to make something that would be the solution, it had to be the best. So it had to be a complete solution, not just, another like a glass rinser, let's say, that was just automatic, right? That could rinse only one item, but the inside of it. I wanted to make it so that a bartender, after making a cocktail, could take everything they used to make that cocktail, put it in the machine, push a button, and have it rinse it automatically. And then on top of that, no electricity, only water pressure, because that's way above my knowledge. Like, I don't know how to use a microchips and PCB boards and all this stuff. People assume, whether fairly or not, because like I'm Asian, they think, oh, you're an engineer, right? Couldn't be further from the truth. I was not good at math. Like a Japanese guy that's not good at math. That was that was me though. I mean, I'm okay, but like,
But what do you think? Okay, you want to improve the system.
yeah,
But like, what deep inside you do you think is that spark that was like, I want to make this more efficient? Was it your upbringing? Like, what is it? Because some people, like you said, there's a lot of people that are in the space, bartender, chef, whatever the position is, and they do a
mhm,
job and they monotonously just do it.
yeah,
I know I've been in mini kitchens and I'm like, why we should do this more efficient.
yeah.
Now, have I ever gone to the links of being like, let me completely make an entire piece of equipment that's gonna make our lives more efficient? No. To that point, I'm like, that sounds like a hell of a lot of work, and I don't want to go through it. So we would tweak this or do that and improve workflows. But what do you think it is that inside of you that was like, you know what, this I need to actually make a product?
Because, well, firstly, it's pain, like working and just knowing that it could be better
Hmm.
every night. Pain, because I would always be the service bartender. Because I like to be I like to make drinks. I like to be busy, and a lot of people don't like the service bar because it's the hardest. It's the hardest job practically in the restaurant, except for perhaps the dishwasher, or if you're like on a broiler and you're just getting smoked. I don't know. I'm too much about kitchens, but like in the restaurants I've worked at, the broiler guy would always get killed.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't. So like I would always be the service bartender, and it was just like this nagging, a combination of this nagging pain on the job every night, and also seeing an opportunity. And I always like to optimize stuff. Like I
Mm.
always like to work on my own stuff. Like I play tennis. I like to string my own rackets. Play guitar. I like to work on my own instruments, tune them up, and set them up to the way I like them. It's just like a little bit of obsessiveness, I think. Maybe.
Hmm.
And then, like you said, there are systems that you can create without going to the trouble of getting a patent, going to a manufacturer, and getting something made, right? For instance, like workflows, mise en place, put this here and
Right.
put this
Right.
here so that it works for, it's just better workflow. Some things you can do like that are just easy, that don't have all that friction of like starting a business or creating a piece of equipment. But this just, there was no other way to do it. Because like the only other automatic way is a glass washer. And if you use a glass washer, you have to wait 90 seconds for that thing to cycle. And you're wasting throughput for glassware, which is the most important thing when you're working a busy shift. If you run out of glassware, that's like Amazon running out of boxes.
Yeah.
You have stuff
Can't
to
do
to
that.
get out, but you don't have a vehicle to deliver that product.
Right.
So yeah, I think a little bit of obsessiveness, a little bit of pain, a little bit of creativity. I've always been creative.
It sounds like right between music, you picked English, right? Those are very creative outlets.
Mhm.
Neither of which English definitely not any good at, and music played a little bit of sax back in the day, but it wasn't. It didn't have the passion like you did. But I think it's that artist type. You like you said, you like to work with your hands, right? You're stringing your own rackets, you're doing your guitar. You just wanted to get work with your hands. Bartending, you're working with your
Yeah,
hands a
yeah,
lot, right? In the
definitely.
movements and what you do. What's it like putting a prototype together
Oh
of a
man.
product? Is it drawings? Is this is what's really always fascinated me
Yeah.
about people who create equipment, especially from the ground up, is are they just drawing on a piece of paper? Are they taking a bunch of like random plastic that they have? Like, how do you even start to begin of actually designing the piece of equipment that you're like, okay, it's in my head. I need to physically get something out.
Mm-hmm.
What's the starting process?
Well, I always tell people, where do you start? You start at the beginning. Your beginning is different than at anyone else's beginning. You just have to start somewhere, right? So to me, it's just, again, this whole process of trying to prove myself wrong. Because if you can pass your own tests of your own, can we swear here?
Oh yeah.
Like your bullshit tests, then no one else can come back at you later and try to poke holes in your argument if you've already poked your own holes in your argument. So personally, where I started was a sketch. And my sketch was just a single vessel, like glass, being rinsed on like a flat surface. And then it evolved because I said to myself, well, they already have beer glass rinsers on the market, and they're repurposing them for rinsing, much more so now. And I believe we have something to do with that because we've kind of uh, awoken the industry to this idea that this is a thing. That's why when we first started our campaign, we said rinsing is a thing because it's not something a
I like
lot of
that.
people think about,
Yeah.
right? So, for me, it was okay. Firstly, I met with my friend who's an engineer. I'm like, hey, is this a feasible idea? He's like, yeah, with all the valves and all the technology that exists, it's feasible. You just have to figure out how to do it.
Hmm.
So then it's a matter of trial and error. What a lot of people don't um understand is like we stand on the shoulders of a lot of giants of like technology. You know, a lot of the hard stuff has been figured out for us.
That's true. Yeah.
Like plumbing, for instance. Plumbing fixtures have been perfected, and basically you have to take what's out there and like Lego pieces and try to put it together. For me, it was I knew that I needed a housing for my rinsing station, so I made it out of plywood. And so, how do you waterproof plywood? You gotta use epoxy, and none of this stuff I knew back then. I'm speaking about it now because I went through the
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. But like, there's a store called West Marine. It's for boating. You know, they have epoxies and fiberglass and like boat repair stuff. And I'm just spending all this time there. The guy's like, what are you even doing? Like, what are you making? I'm like, well, I'm trying to waterproof this wooden housing, right? And so like you kind of go in with a very open, an open mind, very like curious. Sometimes your curiosity overrides any kind of embarrassment or ignorance you might have, right? So lots of hours spent at Home Depot. I remember Mike Smith talking about
Yeah.
that. It's Home Depot. Like these people would literally like walk the other way. They see me come in again, walk the other way.
I can attest because
Yeah.
I spent a large chunk of time working at that exact
Yeah.
store for, I don't know, how long was I there? 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you'd see some of the contractors or certain people come in, you're like, oh, no, he's going to have 800 questions.
Right.
And you would see everyone just
Because
scatter.
I'm not a plumber. I'm not a contractor.
Yeah.
I have no engineering or industrial design experience. But one thing I do, I think I can think things through very systematically, right? So it's all about the user experience, UX. I didn't
Yeah.
know that term then. But for instance, the rinsing station, it's designed so that you can let go of your dirty tins, clear the rinse platform, and reload the rinse platform.
Mm.
That detail is what I wanted it to be. Because if it wasn't quick and fast, I wouldn't be able to sell it. A lot of people recommended we put like doors on it or a curtain. I'm like, no, if it doesn't have that open aperture, it's
Yeah,
gonna.
just one more barrier to worry about germs, bacteria, and it's just a pain, right? A little
Yeah,
curtain. There's nothing
exactly,
worse like
exactly.
coolers that have the air screens, and
Right.
you got to go through the air screen, and you're trying to hold on to stuff, and it smacks stuff out of your hand. I know that in some cases, like it's necessary, but yeah, they're a giant pain.
Right. So like, it was more about simplicity too. Like, make it simple. So no electricity, because electricity has people think like appliances today are just gonna break because they're so used to this like planned obsolescence of their technology at home and stuff like that. And then again, that's above my knowledge, way above. All of this is above my what I know to do, my area of expertise. But you find people along the way to try to help you, So you find first you got to prove that it's going to work, in whatever way possible. So the first prototype was literally a paper towel holder with a 2x4 cut and then like zip tied to it, a hose going downward and a hose coming upward,
Hmm.
just to see if I could this thing would work on water pressure like at my house. that later evolved into, okay, if you really want to make this efficient, it has to rinse 2 vessels at the same time, because bartenders always use 2 sides of a mixing tin, right? 2 halves.
Yeah.
So then you go and test that. You don't necessarily have to make the whole apparatus, but you have to test that the 4 nozzles the water pressure can sustain the needed pressure through the 4 nozzles. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then you prove that. Okay, I prove that. Now I can build an apparatus around it. It's got to be easily cleanable. So the auto rinse, you can actually take all the inner components out, and they all fit on a standard glass washing rack.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because people hate having new things to clean, to
Yeah.
look after, right?
Yeah. It's got to go to the 3-compartment sink, but then it's going to get damaged because the dishwasher doesn't know what it is or how to take care of it, or it goes
Right.
to the dish machine and same thing. It could still get jammed and dinged up, and then you're like, great. I had tons of pieces of equipment that was like, this is hand wash only. You cannot run it through the
Yeah.
machine. And sure as shit, the next day you'd come in like, hey, chef, this is broken. And you would look and you're like, this was ran through the dish machine, wasn't it? And they're like, yeah, how did you know? And I was like, it's warped. I can tell it can't handle that heat and that pressure.
Right.
I was like, it's completely destroyed. And they just like, it didn't even bother them. And I'm like, no, like this is a piece of equipment we need in the kitchen. Ugh,
Right.
always drove me
Right.
nuts.
So, like, one of the key, like, the cornerstones of this design is a valve that's made by Chicago Faucet. So it is a slow close self-metering valve, the kind you'd see like in airports where you just push the button and it slowly closes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that, amazingly, they make this valve that to the 10th of a second, it's accurate. And
Mm.
it's all analog parts. There's no microchips, there's no electricity. It's just a genius design.
Natural physics.
Yeah, yeah. Water pressure, you break the pressure seal, and the water pressure itself closes the seal. Um, and funny, getting them to sell us a single faucet was they're like, why? This is weird. We don't have a product number for you. And then you have to sell that idea to your vendors at first. It's all about sales, right? So you got to sell people on your idea that it's possible. Then you got to sell your vendors to actually make it for you, because a lot of vendors are in the mindset of like, what's your minimum order quantity, MOQ.
Mm-hmm.
When someone first asked me that, I didn't know what that meant. What do you mean MOQ? Well, do you want 500, 1,000? Well, how about one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then they're like, good luck.
Yeah,
Get
good
out of here.
luck. We'll quote you, and we'll make the price so high that you'll just not deal with us. So we
Right.
don't have to tell you no. That happened a lot. So yeah, the Chicago faucet valve, we had to basically say, would you just sell us just a single valve instead of a hot, a cold, and a faucet, right? They ended up doing that. So we built a relationship with them. There's a really great distributor in Chicago called The Faucet Shop. Not related, but yeah, that's where we get our faucet handles from. For the longest time, I couldn't get anyone to prototype the design out of steel.
Mm.
All right. So we went to this trade show called Design to Part. They have it 2 times a year, and it's all manufacturers, right? 3D printing, plastics, steel, stamping, all this, whatever. So you go there, and everyone tells you they can do it, and almost nobody really can do it. They tell you they can do it, so they can try to figure it out, and then they figure out, well, it's either too expensive or it's not within our core competency or capabilities. So in the early days, I had a mailbox at the UPS store, and hanging off of their large format printer was a stainless steel manufacturer. So that's how I found my stainless steel guy. I'm just called the number on that thing. No reference, no nothing. It's just me looking at a piece of paper that's hanging off a printer that I have no business looking at. You know what I mean? And then, so I've developed a relationship with should I name people?
That's up to you.
Okay, yeah. So I have a local steel manufacturer who everyone thinks now everything's made in China, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't believe how much stuff is actually still made here in the US because of the cost,
Yeah.
you know? It just doesn't make sense to make things overseas, some things overseas.
Yeah, some things with like super volume, obviously because of the
Yeah.
automation that they have and the
Right.
speed at which they can pump it out. But to your point, if you're not pumping out probably millions of units of something, it probably doesn't make sense. It's probably not to mention any tariffs that are tacked on top of
Right,
that, getting it
right,
here, logistics, freight. People don't talk about freight and what it costs to just get something to the
right,
States. Are you air freighting? Are you boat freighting? They're
right.
like, wait, what do you mean? They're like, well, you either got to bring it over on a boat or you got to ship it through the air. And if you go through
Yeah,
the air, double, triple your costs. Then it's
right.
got to get through customs
Mhm.
at the, you know, wherever it is. If it's flying in, you know, the airport, certain airports you can fly into has to clear customs. That process can take a long time. Whereas if it's done here, I'm assuming it's all right. We're ready. Where do you want them shipped to?
Like, communication is hard enough between 2 people. I can't imagine having to talk to a vendor in China. I don't speak Chinese. I don't have a Chinese agent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, yeah, like, by serendipity, we found a local manufacturer, and that was huge because being able to call them and being able to go there and talk and collaborate is a huge deal. The very first run we did was a contract manufacturer out of Michigan. So we had our first like production run. So we got after our prototypes, which were about like 4, 5, 6, different prototypes.
Hmm.
None of which were made like commercially. All of which were made by me. You know what I mean? Just to outline
Right.
how this thing would get made. We after we finally arrived at our production model unit. We had a trade show in Wisconsin, like 3 weeks out. So I ordered these units, drove to Michigan, and as soon as I got there, on the shop floor, I could see they were made incorrectly.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a disaster. They were made incorrectly. They didn't have the nozzles pointing downward to rinse the outside of the tins, plus a bunch of other stuff they tried to pass off to me. So I rented a van, drove to like 5 hours to Michigan to get these units, came back with one. They had to modify in my garage with a drill, which, like, if you ever try to drill stainless steel, it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard.
That's not fun.
Yeah. So, just, I don't know, cobbling together solutions. We got it together in time for the trade show, did the show, and, that's where it kind of all started.
So
Like,
what was the how many years? Because I'm assuming it probably took years from idea to actual product. How long was that?
well, I actually, because a lot of the years were spent like sleeping on the idea, not
All
really.
right, take out the sleeping
Okay,
ideas where you're like, okay, I'm actually where you said where you cut out your own
probably
bullshit.
5 years.
5 years. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because okay, 5 years is like the beginning of like incorporating the business, doing
Hmm.
research and development, doing all kinds of. I'll give you pictures of like my first real conception, like day one conception. It's literally like copper tubing, masking tape, and like aerators and stuff like
Yeah.
that taped to a table, just to get the idea in my head.
Yeah.
And from there it just grew from that point.
So you did the trade show. So didn't you find a manufacturer that was able to actually produce? Like you retrofitted it, you Jimmy rigged it, and then did you take it back to somewhere, or you say this is what I need?
Well, that's when I found the local person,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they actually were able to build it properly. And it was their they never built anything like that before either. So, you know,
And how big is this unit? On the screen, I'll throw up like an
okay.
actual picture of the unit running and whatnot, but like just give like rough dimensions.
So the auto rinse is it's 15 inches wide,
Okay.
19 inches tall.
Oh, that's tiny.
Yeah,
That's really
and
small.
some of the pushback we get is this is huge, but they don't understand.
Well, and it's only water pressure. There's no
Yeah,
electric needed. So, I mean,
yeah.
eh, bar, coffee shop, whatever it is, they're going to have water. You got to have water to your espresso machine. You got to have
Mhm.
water for the bar guns for any, I mean, there's water literally lines running all along up a regular bar.
Yeah.
It's not that can't be that hard to tap off of a line and just run it into the unit. So, that really should, I wouldn't think that would be as big of an issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When people see it in person, they realize how small it is. They see pictures of it online, like in our like social media content. Sometimes you know how, I mean, how
Yeah,
many,
the angle you shoot it at
yeah,
makes it look bigger than it
and
actually
like
is.
trolls are everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
So the overwhelming response is positive. We always have trolls who object. You know, So yeah, I mean it's a small footprint, but one of the biggest mistakes we made was okay, it has a tabletop base, so you can put it on a counter, and so I assumed very arrogantly that the designers will figure it out. They'll figure out how to fit this into their designs, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
huge mistake, because the number one of the biggest friction points was where do we put it and how do we put it where we want to put it. So that really led us to create 4 installation accessories. So we have a cabinet that it can mount on top of, like a 2 by 2 like station that also has a speed rail on it for bottles.
Hmm.
We have a bracket that you can mount it under a bar. You can either suspend it or you can hang it to the die wall of the bar. And we have a tabletop base for like the coffee and bubble tea worlds. So that was a huge humbling thing, like, because I thought, oh, I spent all this time and energy to get this thing right. It works. Now it's up to the world to adopt it.
Yeah.
Big mistake. Huge mistake.
Yeah. You always have to find you have to find those solutions because you're not going to find them until you get to the real world to test it. When someone actually goes to put it in, like you
Yeah.
said, you can sit there and think of everything that could go wrong. All right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But until you actually put it into practical application, you're just like, oh shit. We don't do this, like it's going to hinder sales because people are going to give every excuse not to use a product that makes
Yes.
their life easier
Right.
than to say, oh, yes, this will help our operation. They're going to be like, no space, can't do it, don't have an actual spot for it. So sorry,
Right.
move along.
Right. It's easy for people to say no. So you
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
you gotta remove all the friction points possible from cleaning the product to maintaining the product, selling the product, owning the product, to placing the product. Even like in manufacturing, you want to eliminate friction points, right? So that
Mhm.
you can make it faster. Another friction point is maintenance, right? A lot of people push back and say, "Well, I don't want this thing to break down, and then I have to call a service tech." Well, the one thing that really only can fail is the valve, just like any sink, right? So it's field serviceable. We made it so that you can just take a wrench, replace the cartridge, and you're back in business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like all these things that companies try not to do, a lot of equipment companies make it extremely hard to service in the field so that they can take it
Well,
in.
because service is a huge, and this is kind of a hidden secret of the industry, is that
Yes.
service is a huge piece of their business model.
Yes.
If it breaks, okay, we'll use this service technician or the parts that you have to replace.
Mhm.
It's like a car, right? You buy a car and you're like, okay, everything's hunky dory, and then a belt goes down, and between labor and part, you're like, how is this 4 grand or 3 grand?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Or, oh, this blew, and so you need a new something. That's what a lot of companies will do. They'll design it purposefully to be like, all right, well, the parts we can actually, because the margin on those parts can be massive. If they're already
Yeah.
manufacturing it
Absolutely.
or have them available,
Mhm.
okay, well, let's just sell the parts as a piece, and they just won't know it. And when it breaks and they need it, well, they're going to pay to get it fixed.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I want to get like your general thoughts about like, just like because you were in the bar space, kind of like the decline of alcohol and the rise of the non-alcoholic beverages. I've got some stats here. As of July 25, only 54% of US adults report consuming alcohol, which is the lowest it's ever been since 96. What are your general thoughts on that space?
Yeah, I can see why. Especially with the legalization of marijuana.
Hmm.
Um, I just feel like alcohol is I don't drink. I know a few bartenders who don't drink either. And I don't never had an alcohol problem. I think my problem was I couldn't my tolerance was too low. But yeah, it's a trend of now, but I don't know if that will last. I mean, I think that things ebb and flow. And alcohol is such a cocktail culture is so like interesting and inviting, and there's always something going on, and now they're doing NA cocktails.
Yeah.
So I think they're still trying to keep people in the fold, and going out to eat is always I don't know if people ever stop doing that.
No, I don't think so because they want that connectivity. They want
Yeah.
to connect with other human beings. I talked to somebody recently about this and how it's just a natural part of life. We're social creatures. We want to connect. We want to be around people. And what better way than going out to eat when it's like, okay, I don't have to spend the time cooking and cleaning, and you get all that, and people are just like, it's just easier to go out and let somebody else handle it. And
Right.
obviously, we'll pay the cost of that happening. But I just didn't know because it seems like it's dipping down. NAs are going up, but it's like where's the fine balance? Because people are, to your point, they're always going to drink. I think to some degree, or people they like that social
Mhm.
atmosphere. And again, alcohol gives you that feeling, a liquid courage.
Right,
You hear
right,
that. So
right.
you hear a lot of people that will do that just to give them that little bit of like, oh, if I have a couple, then I loosen up, and I feel good at the time, but obviously feel like shit the next day.
Right. I just feel like it's also people don't go out as much either. More, younger people especially stay in more, stay in on their screens and on their tablets and on
It's fair.
they live more like inner lives, I guess. Um yeah, it's a phenomenon for sure.
Yeah, screens. There's more social media than ever,
Yeah.
but yes, they're the least social
Mhm.
beings, right? Give me a phone, give me a screen, and I'll connect to the world there. That leads me into I want to talk about your social media and kind of how you're approaching it as a small company, what you're
Mhm.
doing, kind of the power of organic.
Mhm.
I love Gary Vee and what he talks about with
Yeah.
organic social and the power of it. Just I've seen your videos; they've been popping up more. Just how you're approaching that. I don't know if it's just a team of just you or you have other people, on the sales side, etc. But what's your approach to the organic social?
Yeah, this is something that this is probably the hardest puzzle, hardest piece of the puzzle. Harder than you know, creating the product, harder than anything. But I think we're finally starting to, tweak the right knobs and get them in the right spots. So, huge fan of Gary Vee. I've been following him for since I started the business, And it's funny you mentioned him because one of the last books I read on this subject was Day Trading Attention.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
And what I've learned is there's no prescription. There's no like step 1, step 2, step 3. You kind of have to um forge your own path in a lot of cases. We For us it's like we don't have a sexy product. And we know that. One of my business mentors very early on said your product is not sexy. And I can attest to that, or I support that. It's true. It's not sexy. So how do you make it sexy? You have to what we're trying to do is get people into the pain of being on the front line, of being the bartender in the well, in the moment. Like our other product, the auto burn, automatic ice melting unit that you can
Oh, I need
attach.
one. I needed one of those back in the
Yeah.
day. That was always a pain in the ass too.
So that's another thing. It's like you just got to get people into the psychology of that. And they say a lot of, it's best practice to give value when you do social media. So like instead of us like teaching about bartending or mise en place, our thing is just efficiency. So our job is to educate the operators, the users about these little things that you see in the field that you would never see unless you're in the field, and how they impact your business and your bottom line.
Hmm.
Like something we always talk about is like, do you want your bartender to be a dishwasher or a bartender? Because if they're tied to a sink, rinsing their tools, even for 5-10 seconds, that adds up over a night, right? And if you can get your servers out faster, if you decrease your drink ticket times, your servers get out back to the floor faster, and they can have more engagement with their guests,
Right.
and that means more sales. So we have to really take it beyond the bar, because it is beyond the bar, our products. And so we're just trying to tell stories, little snippets of, you know, the impacts our products can have on your business if you just took a little bit of time to actually see that this is actually happening. You know, you break a glass anywhere near an ice wall, you have to burn the ice,
Yeah.
right? So the old ways, panic, firstly
Well,
panic.
maybe tell people what burn the ice is. Those that are
Oh,
watching that
okay,
or that
okay, yeah,
aren't in
yeah.
the space, they're probably like, "What the hell is he talking about? Burning ice without
S-
like a flamethrower
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what?"
So burning ice. I'm sorry. Sometimes I get so caught up in my own like vernacular of the industry, but burning the ice is melting the ice in an ice bin if a glass is broken anywhere remotely close to it. Because there's always a chance that a piece has fallen into the ice, so you can't risk it. So you have to actually melt or burn the ice. So the old way is you do it, you get pitchers or you scoop the
Oh my
ice
god,
out,
yes.
right? With our product, all you have to do is turn the unit on, get 2 new containers of fresh or 1 new container of fresh ice and just keep making drinks. And then later on, you can tend to the ice bin. After all the ice has been melted, after it slows down, you could properly inspect the ice bin, make sure there's no glass. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of like getting and it's a nice thing that now like short form is popular and like the TikTokification of social media. Because
Mhm.
back in the day, we would be like, okay, like being an English major, all right, I'm gonna make one video, hit all the points, be exhaustive as possible, make the argument, and then no one can argue with me. Well, no one's gonna watch all that.
That's true.
Today, you can hit people with 10-second, 30-second clips over and over again and just kind of plant these seeds in their mind about why they should, listen to you and buy your products. And why that like and of course it's not like a pants company on Instagram where they like the pants look cool, you buy them and like they're trash when you get them. And then their company's like out of business by the time you want to return the pants.
Yep.
So we're just trying to do it the right way, build awareness, trying to talk to all demographics within the restaurant industry, like bartenders,
Mhm.
even chefs, back of house, because back of house talks to front of house, managers, GMs. Just trying to get all those people in the conversation.
Yeah, because who is it that actually sees it that says, "Oh, I need that"? Do you find it? Is it the actual people, the frontline associates to say, "Hey, I happen to see this," or is it inverse that you're seeing more of the decision makers see it and go, "I can optimize my operation for my staff"?
I think it's really from the bottom up, believe it or
Hmm.
not. You would think it's top down, but at this point, the product is not so widely popular that it's just a thing you do if you're designing a bar. So I think bartenders will bring awareness to their managers, or like managers will see it and they'll be like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. We get a lot of different demographics of people who see it and implement it. Like designers will do that. Bar designers will they'll be building a new bar and they'll show their clients, and then they'll give the green light. So it's a mixed bag right now.
Yeah. Um, I was gonna ask about. We talked bars. We've talked coffee shops, boba. What other applications are you seeing?
Well, we get really odd things. Like last year, we made 2 custom ice bins with auto burn technology built in to the for a blood bank. I would have never. I still
What in
can't.
the hell are they doing with it?
So they use a lot of ice to transport,
Right.
for transporting blood, and then they have to melt that ice. So they need a quick and
Huh.
easy way to melt it. But yeah, I mean, our core is the food service industry.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you installed it at any? Because the barista thing is what fascinates me more. The bar thing makes total sense. Like, of course, it makes sense. But being a barista, are you seeing more adoption? Have you seen more people in that space reaching out and saying, "Hey, this is something we need in our operation"?
More and more, yes, more and more.
Yeah. What's in the future for Omni-Rinse, auto burn? Are you sticking with what I find is like people that create, they just keep creating. They just have this itch. All of a sudden, okay, I kind of got a blueprint. I've kind of figured it
Mhm.
out. Let's
Mhm.
keep going. Are you in that bucket, or is it, hey, we're good. Let's grow, sustain where we're at, and then when a problem arises, and someone says, hey, you ever thought about something like this that can fix this problem? Which bucket are you in?
I'm in bucket A, for sure. But bucket here's what I've learned too. When you come up with a product release, there's a certain financial infrastructure you need to support that release. It's like releasing a film or releasing a movie or a record, let's say. You need a certain amount of money for product development, prototyping, a certain amount of money for promotion, and a certain amount of money for inventory. So while I have a few dozen, not a few dozen, but uh, 5, 6 ideas that I want to pursue. But I know that it's not time yet because we got to get these products adopted in the market. And once they become like it's just what you do, like if you open a bar, you get an auto rinse in each station and an auto burn on your ice bins. And when that happens, we'll be able to go a little bit further with with products.
Yeah, just get that general capital to be able to then invest into the next problem for the next solution for the next problem. The
Yeah.
problems are all out there, but I like how you approached it as an actual operator, and that's what I've found, especially in robotics and AI in the kitchen, is you see a lot of these machines that do this, do that, and you look at who created it, and it's an engineer. They've never worked in food,
Yeah.
they've never worked in beverage, yet they create a machine for it. And in theory, everything sounds great. It's hunky dory. And then somebody in food looks at it and goes, that's not going to work. Like, what about sanitation is always a big one. Like, what's going to happen with sanitation? And they're like, well, why do we need to worry about that? Well, because if you don't, then we get shut down and or this piece of equipment no longer runs. And if it's at the core of our operation, we cannot continue operating. So you see that a lot of
Mm.
these engineers
Mm.
that are just creating to create because
Yeah.
that's what they do,
Right.
but they don't have the actual application of using a product to say this will work or this won't work. So I think that gives you a leg up in that stance of you lived it, you did it. So you
Right.
can talk to, here's the pain point. Hey, you know when you're doing this, and they're just like, yeah, I've got a solution for that. It's almost an instant connection to the problem.
Right. And knowing it firsthand so well, validates. Like when I had to go back in 10 bar during the pandemic, I got to use my machine again because I got it installed.
That's got to be a cool feeling.
Yeah. But when when the world shut down and our products weren't selling, you kind of have doubt. Doubt creeps in, Is this even worth it? People going to buy it? No one's buying anything right now, but doubt creeps in. But going back and actually using it firsthand underscored without a doubt in my mind, this is it. We're right about this. This thing works. And it helps a bartender work faster and cleaner. And it saves water actually because you're not leaving faucets on to rinse your tins, and it's obviously that's against health code anyway. But anyway, that reinforced my belief in the product. Yeah, and I do see this a lot too. You go into bars, or I'm sure you go into kitchens, and you're like, who designed this?
Oh, that is don't get me started on kitchen design.
Yeah.
I've been in so many. There was one place I worked at, and tell me if this makes any sense. Beverage station, soda machines, all sorts, anything of beverage, milk, etc. The floor made of wood. Underneath just that area,
Wood.
wood,
Wood.
wood.
Oh.
Why on God's green earth would you put that? What happened? Underneath, one of the hoses popped off, leaked, whatever. Next thing you know, we had looked like literally an earthquake, like crater that you see under the sea. You know, when the
Swelling?
tectonic plates,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just bubbled up. They just shut down the whole station. And I was like,
Oh my God.
whose bright idea was it to put wood under a beverage station? And it's just like, how are these people making probably millions of dollars designing these spaces?
You know how? They sell okay, here's how they sell a bar. From the top up, from the bar top up. When they give you a design, they show you how beautiful the finishes are gonna be, how beautiful the lighting is gonna be, how beautiful the back bar is gonna be. But they don't show you that your engine's not gonna work.
Yeah,
The engine is the underbar, and that's really our niche, is like how to make this thing work better.
yeah.
Because the finishes and all that stuff are easy. But that's really how people get seduced into
Oh yeah,
buying
it's a
bars and
shiny this, shiny that. Ooh, look at all the stainless steel. Ooh, look at
yeah,
all the
the
lights
the
and
lovely pizza oven, the brick, and I can see why. I love gear, I love equipment, I love finishes and stuff too. But like when you go back and you work in it, it's got to work. It has to fire properly because not only for your staff, but for your bottom line. If your
mm,
kitchen can't produce efficiently, your bar can't produce efficiently, then you're dead. You're losing a lot of money. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. But I don't think operators really appreciate that because that can't be measured. You can't really measure what you don't really know.
yeah,
What slips underneath the cracks, you can't really measure that.
yeah, it's hard. There's a lot of that in the food and beverage. You think about not in the sense of labor of traditional labor of your staff, but what about all the hours you spend setting this system up or this inventory, something that's monotonous, but you
Hmm.
do it week after week and you do it. So those are lost hours and you don't put it into your own, like, hey, my time is worth something. And I just spent, you know, 4 hours every week doing it. So there's always that. And it's the non-measurables that kill a restaurant that they don't take into, they just straight up, what's the food cost?
Yeah.
What's my labor? What am I making? Okay, this is what it is. And then they don't know what's your electricity? What's your water? As soon as you flip those lights on, you're paying money, especially if you're the tenant of the building and you have to cover all that. And they don't really think of that. You hear it all the time
Yeah.
when it's going to save you energy, it's going to save you water. But for some reason, food operators it kind of goes over their head and they're just like, I don't really care because 9 times out of 10, they're not the one writing the check to cover those things.
Hmm.
And that person then's like, we're not profitable. And like, how are we not profitable? Our food margin, we're running, let's say a good operation, 30%. Food margins, laborers, I don't know, today's age, it's a little difficult. Let's say we're running 40, super efficient kitchen. So you've got 70% there. We're making 30% profit. And then all of a sudden the actual guy writing the check, the owner is like, we're losing 5% every month. And they're like, how is this possible? And they don't think about those underlying factors and costs.
Yeah, like two points really sparked in my head. I took a plastics course, just injection mold course, like like 1 day seminar. And what really struck me about that was the guy. That's manufacturing. Restaurants kind of is manufacturing. It's
Yeah.
on demand manufacturing. You know what I mean? That's why bartenders are manufacturing on the spot in front of the guest, bespoke orders. It's not like they're getting like a sheet that says you're gonna make these widgets today. You have to do it on the fly. So the more you can automate the tedious processes, the better
Hmm.
for them. But that guy that was teaching the course in injection molding is like, you're paying people to take steps, on the shop floor, right? So why don't you pay them to be more efficient? And that really stuck in my head, you know. And the second thing is, there's a lot to be said about like employee satisfaction. If your kitchen runs smoothly, your employees will be less stressed. They'll be more apt to want to come back
Yep.
tomorrow, the next week,
Yep.
the next month. And that's an intangible that I think a lot of operators don't really look at. How nice is it for my employees to work here? Like tech companies do that all the time. They have lounges, cafeterias, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. But they don't operators for restaurants don't really take that into consideration for whatever reason.
Yeah, my best run kitchens were my happy staff.
Yeah.
And it was the small things that made them happy. I saw all these
Yes.
inefficiencies in the kitchen. I'm like, the oven that you got to stick a towel in partially and close it to get it to actually like kick the fan on, and the bottom one's broken. And then this piece of equipment, you got to use a bucket to like load and unload it because whatever reason, they didn't run
Yeah.
a water line. They didn't put a drain well. And then you're just like, no, we need to fix these things. And so then you instill like, guys, we need to cut out all the waste. We need to stop using, disposables if you're here because that's costing us. You add up all the math and you put these things in place. And usually the staff is always pissed at the beginning because you're changing culture, you're changing things.
Mm-hmm.
But once we started putting in, as I call them, new toys, making the kitchen more efficient, all of a sudden the morale started to come up. They're like, wait, what do you mean you got me a piece of equipment that slices all the onions or the carrots? Well, it makes sense. Why would I have you sit there with a knife for, 6 hours? Because I did volume for 6 hours cutting 200 pounds, or we can just run them through the machine and we can get it done in 30 minutes. And they're
Right.
like, you don't know how big of a game changer that is to my position. I'm like, I do know because I was you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
understand the pain of cutting carrots for 2 hours or whatever it is, or onions for an hour, or potatoes, wedging potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to wedge potatoes. It's a giant pain in the ass. They make machines that'll do it for you with a little bit of investment up front. And then the staff were super happy. Now we can have holiday parties. And again, we're talking more on the corporate side, not private restaurant stuff. Now they can have these parties and these things where they get to come together as their family and as a
Mm-hmm.
unit. And that's what they talk about at work. Oh, do you remember the Christmas party and we did this and we had the prizes and it was so much fun having someone else cook for us. And now the morale is there and the kitchen runs smooth. And then the money just keeps flowing and then we just keep improving the kitchen. And
And you retain people. You
yeah,
retain your best people.
yeah,
You know. And like you were talking about morale. Morale is it's not on a spreadsheet, but it shows in your sales. It really does.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. You can tell when that waiter comes to your table, I'm ready, how are you today? Just the first words out of their mouth. They're having a bad day,
Mm-hmm.
or you can tell they love their job, or the third, I guess, they can kind of put personal life at the door and get in and just do their job really well. But you can truly tell when people are really happy and they enjoy their job there as they're walking by another table. Is there anything else I can get you? Are you sure? And those people, even if they like screw up or they miss something, I usually am not on them because I'm like, they're doing the best they can, right? They're
Yeah.
bubbly, they've got energy. You can tell
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to be hospitable. But the person that's just like stone cold and you could tell I'm here for a job and that is it. I have a lot less leniency for those people because you're in the hospitality industry. if you're not here to provide hospitality, go work in retail. You can
Mhm.
be a ass as much as you want in retail and not affect my experience, you know, in an aisle of a hardware store or clothing store, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So definitely, I like what you said. Morale is not on the P&L because
It's not,
that's
but it matters so much. And if just being a front of house employee myself, there's nothing better when you have a manager that's always trying to improve your operation for you.
yeah,
Because they know that if it's better for you, it's better for them.
yeah,
And it's better for the bottom line,
yeah.
you know?
And they always,
Yeah.
again, people always wonder why places are successful and why other places are not, and it's those unseen things. Coming up on time,
Okay.
let's hit up all the socials. Where do
Mhm.
people go? I'm gonna throw stuff up on the screen as we're talking and whatnot,
Yeah.
so they can physically get like what the hell are you talking about. So head over to YouTube to actually watch the videos. Because if you're listening, you're obviously not gonna see it. So hit them up with all the socials and all that good stuff.
So you can find us at omnirinse.com. That's our website. Uh, we have a lot of great informational, like short reels on Instagram. Coincidentally, our Instagram is blowing up as of last week. Don't know why, but it's the algorithm is finally being really friendly to us. So you can find us on Instagram at Omni-Rinse, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can find I'm more doing my profile, and John, my business partner, is doing his profile. Or we need to up our company page on LinkedIn. But yeah, all those platforms, all those
Beautiful.
socials.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely link everything down into the show notes so that way people have easy access to find it. And again, it's a pretty cool thing. We got connected through the group Global Nova,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
I know we don't have time to talk today about, but I know we're trying to work some things through that and really just a really good group of entrepreneurs that are trying to help each other out. So I'm sure there's a lot more to come in that space.
Yeah,
So
very nice people in that group. Very
yeah,
nice people.
just when you want to help others, that karma comes
Mhm.
comes right back to you. So
Agreed.
we'll leave it at that for today. So I really appreciate you making the trip down from Palatine. I know it's not far, but it's still a
Oh,
little bit of
my
a drive.
pleasure, man. My pleasure.
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank
And
you
then,
so much.
and to catch this episode more, everything, hit up Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the usual places, fellintofood.com. And as always, until next time, catch you on the sunny side.